All right, today we're looking at the NVIDIA chart, and I've found some interesting things, but let's look at the basic chart here. So we have this trend line going all the way back to October 2022, and we're still holding that trend line. So that's looking good. We're definitely seeing some pretty serious signs of strength. If we take a 50% level from this peak in June down to the low in August, we have been heading up since then, and we're already above this 50% level at 115. So that is looking good. And we just closed the previous week at 120 above that 50% level. That's looking good. The next weekly candle is going up. We're also above this 21 SMA line, this yellow line here, which is this moving average. Which historically is very significant because when we bounce off of it, we go on a mega bull run, and basically as long as we're above it, we are likely to continue to head upwards. But yeah, NVIDIA is so bullish that even if we do go below, it's not for very long. But we're sitting above that level, so we could be due for another run here pretty soon. Definitely, it's in the cards. Okay, let's look at the monthly. We closed the previous month. Also, we closed the month above that moving average and above the 50% level at 120. So that's looking good. I'm even going to look at the 3-month chart. I like to look at these. When in doubt, zoom out. I'm going to make this bigger. So this is an interesting candle here. I mean, take a look at this. This is the macro 3 months from April through July. We did get that dump down to 90, but then that got bought up and got bought up all the way back up to 120, which is above this moving average, 21 SMA moving average. Very significant line there. So potentially, I mean, that tells a good story. That's pretty bullish. It did go down, but it got bought all the way back up. So that's potentially a lot of bullish momentum. That's what we want to see for the bulls. Now let's look at something really interesting. Look at the RSI and the stochastic RSI. This is the macro 3 months. So we're heading up. That's looking good. But let's look at the 2 month. There is a little bit of concern that in the last 2 months from looks like July to September, we are potentially getting a stochastic RSI cross there, which would be more bearish. But we got to wait till November to see that confirmation. Then if we look at the monthly, we're hanging out up here. Potentially a stochastic RSI cross back upwards as well. So we're seeing some mixed signals here. We will have to wait until, we just got this close. So we'll have to wait until next month to see how this all pans out. Are we going to have a stochastic RSI cross on the monthly, and then is the 2 month, is that just going to be a fake out and it's going to shoot back upwards? We will have to wait and see. If we look at the weekly, weekly is looking bullish short term. We just have to, we did get the stochastic RSI cross, but just like we did back in August, we have to make sure this isn't a fake out and it's not just going to head back down like that. So waiting on that confirmation. We could even look at the 2 week. 2 weeks still hanging out down there. That's not looking super bullish. But interesting movements here. I mean, if the 2 month stays above that, and the monthly, we get a stochastic RSI cross back up, we could get another run here, which is definitely in the cards. Another thing that's interesting to look at is when we zoom out, we look at the, on the 3 month chart once again, we look at the volume down here, and the volume has dropped off pretty significantly. in the last 3 months, similarly to what it did back in October of 2020. Wow, the year of the pandemic, where things slowed down for a bit before it actually headed off into a run. Another time was back here where, yeah, things slowed down, but then it did start to head up. Really the next 3 months it started heading back up. So, yeah, typically when the volume slows down, typically, especially for this chart, NVIDIA is typically a great buy. But none of this content is financial advice. I have to say that. This content is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is just what I'm thinking. I'm actually not an investor in NVIDIA, but I wish I bought back here. Okay, now something that you may have never seen before if you're new to this channel. I'm going to be looking at the NVIDIA Astrology. All right, that's what we do on this channel. I look at the Bitcoin astrology. I'm looking at the NVIDIA astrology. We take the birth date of NVIDIA, January 22nd, 1999. And we look at what kinds of themes we're seeing in this astrology. So you can take advantage of this. My predictions have been quite accurate historically. So you can use this as an edge by listening to me. You do have to have an experienced astrologer reading this. There's some people that are beginners and are trying to read this, but they really don't know what they're doing because they haven't had any experience with this. But take advantage of this video. So we have... Well, what I wanted to look at is, when did NVIDIA slow down? So it slowed down. Actually, let me go on the shorter time scale. Recently, it peaked out mid-June of this year, and it just kind of traded sideways. So do we see anything in the astrology that pointed to that potential? Well, we do get this rather negative transit here. Pluto was conjuncting the natal chart of the NVIDIA Neptune, and typically Neptune can bring confusion, and the markets don't like confusion. We got a direct hit on June 4th, right before NVIDIA peaked out and just started trading sideways. The really interesting thing is this transit hits again at the end of January. All right, but until then, we have a big gap here. So we have room for potential upside. I'll talk more about that. But the really interesting thing is this transit then hits a third time and a fourth time at the end of next year. So really interesting. Now, what happens in between this transit that's a bit bearish is we have this one down here, Uranus sextiling the NVIDIA Jupiter, and we're getting a direct hit on November 8th. We got another direct hit back at the end of June. But there's potential that this Pluto conjunct Neptune outpowered it. But if this brings back more bullish momentum, which it certainly could, it's looking bullish from October heading into November. So we could get a nice pump around then. Of course, if we're not getting, like a crazy black swan event, which is also in the cards because Pluto is in Capricorn, one of the most, it's at the 29th degree, the most intense degree, but that's another topic. And we have this Jupiter trining the NVIDIA Uranus. That's going to come into play in January, March. So that's interesting. We could get a pump around then. But the main thing was that transit that I mentioned. I'm going to zoom in a bit closer here. Heading into October, November, this is the main transit. Uranus sextiling the NVIDIA Jupiter. We could get a nice pump. Yeah, really, in October heading into November, and we're already seeing signs of strength, so we're already seeing this potentially loading up soon for a pump upwards. But it could also trade sideways. So this could start to pump, mid-October heading into November, and then November 8th, which would be after the election, perhaps that's when we get a really strong pump once everything with the election is sorted out. All right. So that's the main astrology. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to see more videos like this, I'm going to be covering the NASDAQ analysis and astrology. I'm going to be covering the SPY and also Tesla. All right. And then I also look a lot at the Bitcoin astrology chart. That's mainly what I do here. And I also look at some cryptocurrency altcoins. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.